So you mentioned you were a nervous Nelly. So has anxiety always been present in your life? And like, how have you managed to deal with it as you've grown into an adult?
So back when I grew up, there wasn't really such a thing as like therapy. So they really didn't know what it was. But yeah, I've had anxiety my whole life. And it's hard to realize that you have such a thing when there's nobody that knows such a thing about it.
Hmm.
So as I got older, end up having like panic attacks and stuff. And I went to the doctor because, I thought something was wrong with me. And the lady said that I was just having anxiety. And yeah, once I realized that that's what it was, I'd know that I've had it pretty much my whole life from a youth.
Oklahoma's looking over at Missouri. Kansas waves to South Dakota. North Dakota's checking in on Minnesota. Texas and Nebraska passing notes. Here in the plains, watch 'em meet, watch 'em shake from the valleys to the hills. Yonder Yell.
Can you tell us who you are and where we're at, please?
My name is Dustin Kirk. We are at Distinked Art in Scott City, Kansas, 507 Court Street. And this is art studio / tattoo studio.
So with Scott City being such a small town and the fact that a tattoo shop and art studio, I feel like is the people of Scott City are really lucky to have this here. What made you want to pick Scott City?
Well, I picked Scott City because it's basically where my kids are, and it's a decent place to raise a family. It keeps you out of the hustle and bustle of a big town. And yeah, it's a decent place to raise a family. The school system's decent.
And did you grow up in Scott City or
I
somewhere
did.
else?
I did. I grew up in Scott City, born and raised. I left for a little bit, but we always come back here. This is where where my family lives, dad and grandma and stuff.
And have you been here for all of your life or did you ever go anywhere and then come back?
I've lived in Vegas for a little bit. I lived in Louisville, Kentucky for a little bit, and then to get licensed in Kansas, I did my apprenticeship in Hayes. You have any allergies? Huh? No, we'll find them together.
So I think for a tattoo artist, there's a lot of things. I mean, I don't even know much about it, but I feel like you have to be able to draw a little bit and you have to be able to be artsy and kind of see like depth and all of that kind of thing. So how did you start out? Like what made you want to do tattoos?
So I like to make things. So like drawings pretty much like at the beginning stages of that sort of thing. So like in order to put my ideas into paper, you have to develop some sort of drawing skill. And it's not just on paper, but maybe it's like you're making something out of wood or metal or whatever it may be. You still have to have those basic drawing skills to be able to accomplish that sort of thing.
What do you like? I know you have to get licensures and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like what
Like Kansas is a bit over the top. I'd say it's one of the hardest states to get licensed in as a tattooer. So what they require is for you to find a mentor who's willing to take you on and teach you how to tattoo and stuff. And then they require 50 procedures and 1,200 hours of training, which is, I mean, it's intense as a tattooer and it's a lot. But if you like go to states like Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, states like those, they don't have any rules really whatsoever. So people without any sort of skill level or have even tattooed before, they can open up their shop there without any sort of training. So it's a little bit sketchy.
So it sounds to me, I mean, I've had some tattoos in a couple of states, but
Just vet your artist. So like, just because somebody says they're good at something or says they do something doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at it or that have your best interests in mind, Ready, doll? Here we go.
Well, speaking of that, like why, if my friend got a tattoo gun last week and they want to try it on me, like why should I maybe come to a shop that's licensed in good
Okay.
state before?
So, first of all, there's going to be a level of skill that you get when you go through an apprenticeship, right? Even if your mentor doesn't show you anything, there's going to be a level of skill that you acquire just from doing it. So that's one good reason. Another good reason is cleanliness. So we're bringing blood to this top of the skin, and it gets on your hands and stuff like that, and that stuff carries diseases sometimes in humans. And so if you're just like intravenous drugs, if you're not responsible with your needles and your bloodborne pathogens, then you're going to end up in a lot of problems. Not to mention that the cleanliness of the environment you're receiving the tattoo in. Is it meant to be, is it meant to be tattooed in, or is it like meant to be cooked in? You know what I mean? So there's several different factors that could go into getting your tattoo a place that's not licensed for it.
Yeah, I've noticed that you've been very, very great with washing your hands.
Yeah,
and making
yeah,
sure
that's stuff that you should learn before you even start tattooing. It is a dangerous game to be playing around with, because you could go to somebody's house and get a tattoo, and it may look good, and it may even heal good and all of that. But what else is the guy injecting into your bloodstream?
So in your opinion, what do you feel like the difference is between, tattoos before, like when you were 18 and then now?
So as far as like the socially acceptable, so like more people are seeing it on TV and more musicians are having tattoos, and that just influences other people to get tattoos as well.
I think just in society, like when you were, I don't know, when did you get your first tattoo?
I was a bit of a late bloomer, so I would have got mine in my late 20s.
Okay.
And I did it the complete wrong way. I like traded a Xanax for it.
So let's not do that.
Yeah, obviously not a good way to be getting a tattoo.
Yeah. I think it's just, like how tattoos have become socially more acceptable, and you'll find people in, high positions, doctors and
Yeah. So
things, and they just make sure they're covered for work or whatever they need to do for corporate America.
even nowadays, so like the big corporate people are even getting tattooed. So it's hard for the boss man to say you can't have any tattoos when the boss man himself is getting tattooed. And it's become popular through TV, reality TV. Like I think one of the first reality TV shows was Miami Ink. And that really brought tattooing into everybody's living room, and it just became more sociably acceptable.
Yeah. What is one of the differences? Like I know that, a lot of times tattoo guns are just really loud, and some people might be afraid of them because how they might feel. What's one thing that you use that's a little different than that?
So, from when tattooing first started, the popular thing to use was called a coil machine. And so how they work is they work on electromagnetism, where these coils are hooked up to electricity, and then they're magnetized, and then they're shut off. And that's how they get that in and out movement.
Wow.
So what I use is called a rotary machine. And it doesn't use those magnetic coils, because those magnetic coils are super loud. And this is a more of a quiet. It's an electric motor, just like your ceiling fan at home.
Okay.
So it is a lot like cleaner of a hit. So like when the needle goes in and out of the skin, it's super clean and super quick. Whereas the coil machine is more slow. It has more lag to it. In turn, I think that makes the tattoo hurt a little more, because your needle's staying inside that skin longer. Makes it easier to tattoo with, but it could scare people too, because of the loudness, where this machine I'm running, it doesn't have loudness because it's just nothing more than a electric motor.
Yeah. I mean, we have some really great mics for this conversation and they cut out noise, but I don't think we could ever sit here with a regular tattoo.
No, it would
and have
still
a
be too loud,
conversation.
especially this close to the machine.
Yeah. Do you find that, people that haven't ever had this used on them before, once they come to you, do they have a preference?
Not necessarily. Most people just they come to me because they want a good, clean tattoo, and that's what they get.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, maybe it's less intimidating because I use a rotary machine and maybe that's what they're after. But for the most part, I don't find that anybody really cares as long as the tattoo work is good.
Right. The outcome is what matters. Well, I have to say we've been here for several hours now, and I think I can say that you do some good work.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. No, we've had, Derek's come to you before and
Yeah.
he's had a good time. He even got a face tattoo and he
Yeah.
said he couldn't even feel it. So I know when he was talking to me, he said that you don't hardly ever, like, you've never done a face tattoo on people. What are some things that you prefer not to tattoo on people, and kind of if there's any ethics involved with that, or if it's just your personal preference?
I feel like ethics is a major part in the tattoo industry for the fact that sometimes you have to protect people from themselves. So, like, if you have a 16-year-old girl come in and she doesn't have any tattoos, but she wants, a teardrop under her eye for the very first tattoo. Like, and I bring this up because it has happened. So, like, what's going to stop her from getting that tattoo? You know what I mean? Because that potentially could ruin her life because of lack of job opportunities with people with face tats. Is she, like, secure in her work at 16? Most people aren't. They haven't even started their career yet. So you just got to keep in mind some of that stuff. And, like I said, even though society's getting more acceptable, that doesn't mean you can just tattoo whatever, wherever. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to underage kids.
Right. So I've heard just from Derek's conversation with you that a face tattoo is one you don't usually like to do.
No, I really have to, like, know that you're comfortable with where you're at in life and that you can still make a living, and still be a functioning part of society with a face tattoo.
Right. And then the second thing that Derek got that day was actually a face tattoo.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Interesting.
and then, so that type of face tattoo is one that you say you don't usually do either.
Yeah. So that's more of a portrait style, which it's not, we have an artist that is good at portraits here in town that works here. And if you're going to get a portrait, then he's your guy, So, like, I'm not going to take on something like that because I can't give you as good a job as this guy could,
Right. Yeah. Generally, a face tattoo or a tattoo of a face is kind of an iffy thing. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. The profile that you did on Derek's arm was really good.
Thank you.
The social norms and how tattoos are a little bit more accepted these days, but there's probably still people out there either for religious reasons or just personal reasons or just their family that maybe they feel like their tattoos wouldn't be so easily accepted. So have you had anybody like get any tattoos in any hidden part?
Of course, there's a Mennonite community locally.
No.
Yeah, there's been several, I say several, but 2 Mennonite gals that have gotten tattooed. And of course, I don't believe their religion is accepting of that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
they want a tattoo where it's less conspicuous.
So you got to tell me, like, would they get it on like their leg or where would
Yeah,
they get it?
like high up on the thigh or up on the top of the shoulder where a t-shirt or something would be covering it pretty much all the time.
Okay. So they're taking their chance with their future husbands.
That's right.
In your opinion, do you feel like what would the point of a tattoo be? Like, why would someone want to go, out of their way and potentially go against God or their religion to get this art drawn on their skin?
So in that sort of instance, I think it's just curiosity. And it's typically women. So, like, women are more conscious of what they look like. They care more about it, where men don't as much. They still do, but it's not as much as like a woman, right? And really all it is like it's a body modification. So it's really to make yourself feel better about the own skin that you're living in.
Right.
And I think that's the main reason 99% of people get tattoos. It's cosmetic.
Yeah. What's the craziest place that you've ever had anybody put a tattoo on their body, and what's the most like outrageous or like awesome tattoo that you've done?
I tattooed the inside of an armpit
Ouch.
before.
How'd
That's-
that work out for them?
And the lady sat really well, which is scary to me because I figured that would hurt so bad. But she sat really well. I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. I feel like you'd have to be pretty heavily tattooed in order to be able to sit for something like that because it is a heavily painful area. And as far as the tattoos go, like what I tattoo, anytime I get to tattoo my own artwork, I'm winning, man.
Yeah. So I happened to see an article recently where a lady's husband had passed away and she preserved his tattoo on obviously his skin in a little picture frame. And so I don't know if you've, had anybody do that you know of, or even if you've had somebody pass away that has like your own art on them. Like, does that do anything to you as a tattoo artist psychologically?
I feel like it's a blessing that if somebody passes away with your artwork on them, I feel like they're taking a piece of you with them wherever they're going, whatever you may believe in. So, like, as far as like skinning yourself or skinning your loved one and framing them, to me, that's a little weird. I don't know if I'd want it in my house, but as far as like, it's a piece of art, it's just on a different style of canvas. So, and that they can be expensive too. So, maybe it would be worth it to get your loved one's tattoo hung up in your house and stretched and framed and all of that.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Yes.
For sure. So with you having your shop here in Scott City, a lot of times they say like if you do something fun for work, then you'll feel like you never work a day in your life. Is that kind of how you feel about your shop?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been trying to do something similar to this for a living for a long time because let's face it, work sucks, bro.
Yeah.
And I happen to be decent at doing drawings. And so I found this tattooing and it's really like great. It's probably the best job in the world if so
Oh.
like as far as working, no, I don't feel like I work. Some tattoos are, more intense than others, or maybe they're not your favorite imagery and in that sense, maybe it is a little bit like a job, but once you come down to it and you actually think about it, I'm just drawing pictures on people, and a lot of times it's stuff I'm really into.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easily the best job in the world.
So I know like having your own shop gives you a bit of like boundaries that you can set forward and kind of like rules as you go forward with your customers. What is a shop minimum and why is that important to have?
So a shop minimum is the minimum amount of money that you can get a tattoo for. So as you can see behind me and on my table, maybe not this setup, but it costs quite a bit of money to keep things in stock. And that's what's necessary for the minimum tattoo. When I do a minimum tattoo, the actual take home money is a lot smaller than the $80. I'd be lucky to get half of that $80 because most of that money I have to turn back into the business to keep my supplies up so I can do tattoos. And living around here, you can't just go to the store and buy stuff to give your buddy or your client a tattoo. You have to plan ahead and you have to order all of this stuff ahead of time and keep it in stock. Because like I say, you can't go to the store and get something to tattoo somebody with.
Yeah. What's your shop minimum?
Shop minimum is $80. And that will get you anywhere from 30 minutes to not quite an hour's worth of work, depending on the design and the artist.
I know when I go to appointments and things, like I don't really expect any small talk or any chatter like that. But I know just being in the industry that you are, like hairstylists, and just that you're working with people all the time. So you see a lot of different people, and I'm sure that you probably have a lot of small talk in your life here as a tattoo artist. How do you feel about small talk?
I personally like it. I'm not one to talk to somebody like if I don't know them outside of the tattoo parlor. So this is like a comfort zone of mine, right? Because typically I'm a nervous Nelly, but this is a comfort zone of mine and I feel at home here. So it's a little easier for me to open up and talk to people. But as far as the client goes, it's therapy for them. So like opening up and talking to your artist about your problems is like part of it, I feel like.
Yeah. So do you get a lot of people that do come in? Because I know I've heard therapy in the aspect of like, oh, I'm going to get a tattoo, just like the act of getting a tattoo. That's kind of what I always envisioned it as. But yeah, as soon as you said that, like, so do you get people who do come in here and just share things with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Some people come in here and they share their problems, and you almost wonder if that's not their whole reason for being here in the first place, and the tattoo is just secondary.
Wow. You grew up in Scott City. Your shop is here in Scott City. What do you think is just kind of in the surrounding area that would be beautiful to look at or maybe bring people to see?
There's a few local sites here in Scott City. Or maybe not in Scott City, but down the road in the countryside. We do have a lake, and then there's a place called Little Jerusalem. That's just north of the lake. That's, old Native American type of things. So, like, I guess there is quite a bit of a presence of Native Americans from back in the day in this area. And there's, people have documented the remnants that they have left behind, I suppose. And yeah, so there's like a few sites to see about that. There's the Great Pyramids of nothing like Egypt, but it's like, oh, this place used to be underwater. So it's like old prehistoric coral, so to speak.
And then the pillars, is that something different?
That's the pillars is the pyramids, what I was
Okay.
telling you about. And
Okay.
those are basically underwater formations that were formed millions of years ago or whatever.
So you mentioned you were a nervous Nelly. So has anxiety always been present in your life? And like, how have you managed to deal with it as you've grown into an adult?
So back when I grew up, there wasn't really such a thing as like therapy. So they really didn't know what it was. But yeah, I've had anxiety my whole life. And it's hard to realize that you have such a thing when there's nobody that knows such a thing about it.
Mhm.
So as I got older, end up having like panic attacks and stuff. And I went to the doctor because, I thought something was wrong with me. And the lady said that I was just having anxiety. And yeah, once I realized that that's what it was, I'd know that I've had it pretty much my whole life from a youth.
So we talked about like therapy, getting tattoos as therapy for the person who's getting that tattoo. Is it therapy for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like anytime you can open up and talk about problems in your life or, hardships or whatever, that's actually just pretty damn helpful for your mental psyche. So if somebody comes in and they want to talk, about mental health and how they're getting along in that sort of aspect, then it certainly helps me because I can relate to that sort of thing.
When it comes to anxiety, it has a lot of faces and ways it can show up. Do you even know who or what you're afraid of?
No, not at all. So I don't know. Maybe it's like scared of failure or something like that, but I'm not even sure what it would be.
People always say that they need to get some ink therapy. And so do you feel like there is such a thing as a tattoo addiction? And if so, like how do you feel about that?
I think there is such a thing as a tattoo addiction. It's more of a cosmetic thing though. So like as far as like the yearn or want for a tattoo is not necessarily, in my opinion, not necessarily a tattoo, but more necessarily of like making yourself feel better. A release of dopamine is scientifically proven to happen when you're getting a tattoo, and dopamine is addictive.
Can you tell the difference between somebody who hates the needle versus somebody who has been thinking about it and just can't stop thinking about it?
Most of the time, people that set really still for a tattoo, those are the people that are more into it, I feel like. Whereas the people that have a hard time with the pain, those are the people that maybe don't want it as bad.
Yeah. So have you ever had anybody just come in and be up, like just couldn't sit still?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's not very conducive to your tattoo quality, but it happens.
Is that when you get your special cream out?
Yeah, that usually helps people stop jumping around a little bit anyway.
So if you had somebody walk in the door and they've never gotten a tattoo before, are there tattoos that we talked a little bit earlier about, the teardrop on the eye tattoo on the face. Are there tattoos that you just feel like people shouldn't get because they'll regret them?
Yeah, so like anytime that you're putting your significant other, you're running a risk of that relationship going south. I don't know if it's just in the air, if there's actually some sort of outer being that has control over that sort of thing, but as soon as you get your loved one, your wife's name tattooed on them, your divorce is coming imminently.
It's a good thing Derek hasn't gotten my name tattooed on him then. So
That's right.
So like say this brand new person does come into the door and they want their spouse's name on them. Like how hard are you going to try to are you going to go 3 times? Are you sure you want this?
I'm going to tell them all of the potential dangers. So like somebody comes in and wants their significant other name on I try to talk them into getting something that's illustrative that represents their significant other. Because for some reason, whatever, the actual name is bad luck. Now, maybe it's all of tattoos. So even if you did get an illustrative version of something that reminds you of your husband, maybe that's bad luck too. But that's what I would do and tell them that it's a bad idea.
When I try to go into for a tattoo or a haircut or just anything, I want the expert's opinion. So I always enjoy somebody who's going to point me in the right direction. And I think that's probably one of the qualities of a good tattoo artist. It is kind of your responsibility as the person who's changing someone's life forever that you can do that. So with your shop being in Scott City and your life, and we talked about your family, that's why you're here. What are some things of the small town nature that you just appreciate about Scott City?
So first of all, if I need a soda pop or a sweet snack, it takes 5 minutes to get anywhere in Scott City and back. So that's one of the main reasons that I like the small town aspect is the traffic and the distance is relatively short. But that comes with other good things too. So like the school system is pretty good. The student to teacher ratio is obviously better than you'd find in a larger town. The school system's pretty good for the kiddos.
So growing up, did you resent being dropped off in a cattle town rather than a big city?
Oh, yeah. I hated this place because I didn't fit in with other people. If you weren't a jock or, good at sports, whatever, then you're basically an outcast, or your dad's not a farmer, which mine wasn't. So meaning we work for the farmers. So the farmer boys are, more well off than the people that work for their dads or whatever. So yeah, I absolutely hated my whole existence in this town for the longest time.
So happiness is a front, or walk me through how you made peace with it.
So this is how I made peace with it, right? So this place, in my opinion, didn't have anything cool. They didn't have anything to offer, like not necessarily counterculture, but something that somebody or that didn't necessarily fit the norm. Like I'm one of the very few people in this town that's never driven a combine or a tractor or anything like that. And it's more just because I was not interested in the whole farming thing or the cow thing. So I had to create something that was cool to me.
All right. Do you feel like you've succeeded in that?
I do, actually. I do think I have succeeded in that.
When you're planning a tattoo with somebody, how do you come up with a price and how do you, decide how long it's going to take and how do you get all those details figured out?
So the first part of that is you need to figure out how long it takes you to do a tattoo. How long it takes you from to get from A to B from start to finish. And then what I do is I look at the tattoo. I ask where the tattoo is going to be placed on the body because that's a big factor. And then the amount of details that are inside the design. The more details there are inside of a particular tattoo, the longer it's going to take because you have to take time to put those details in. And that those tattoos like that end up taking a little bit longer, the more heavily detailed tattoos. So like you can get a great big giant tattoo, and as long as it doesn't have a bunch of details in it, it may not take as long as some more smaller tattoos that have a ton of detail in there.
Most people have ideas of what they want for a tattoo before they come in. So, do you work with them ahead of time, give them a consultation, draw up their tattoos ahead of time, like, days or weeks ahead? Or do you kind of do it closer to the time that they come in, or even like when they're in the shop? And whichever way you do that, why do you choose to do it that way?
So, my particular procedure, and everybody's going to be different, but my particular procedure is I draw everything the day of the appointment just to keep things fresh in my head. Now, say you show up and you don't like what I've got for you. It's never happened, but you end up not liking it. And if I can't change it in a timely manner, then all we do is just simply reschedule and try again at another date. Maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's a couple weeks down the line. But I can usually get you all fixed up in that sort of time. I've never had anybody come in and cancel because I couldn't change their drawing in a timely manner.
So you would never, let's say somebody did come in, they didn't like what you drew, and then you draw it up, you wouldn't, because you just said this is not your process. But,
Yeah.
We've heard of people sending tattoos days ahead of time, and then that gives them time to go around to their friends and or just themselves personally critique it and find all the things they don't like about it. Then you have to draw another one. I don't know. What's your perspective on that?
So what's happened to me before, and most every single one of my policies is there for a reason because of something that has happened before. So what has happened to me before is I've drawn a lady up a design, and then she has taken that design and gone and got that design tattooed elsewhere for cheaper. Well, it turns out that cheaper isn't always better. And now she wanted me to fix up the botched tattoo.
No way.
When she would have just came to me in the first place, it wouldn't have been botched.
What was your answer?
I politely declined her to fix her up, mostly because the tattoo was so bad that I don't know if I could have fixed it up. And then if I did fix it up, the lack of perfection in the tattoo would have came back and reflected on my name.
Right.
So you got to, be a little bit careful when you're taking on projects, especially projects that are pretty rough and that somebody else has done, because you want to make sure that if you take on that project that you can fix it to perfection or up to the level of quality that you're used to putting out. Otherwise, it can come back and ruin your name as a tattooer.
What is your preferred booking method, and why do you prefer to book that way?
So how I have my booking set up is through a website. It's on my Facebook page. It's on the internet. You can Google it. And I prefer what you do is you book your budget for whatever tattoo you want to get. And then you come in to the shop on the day of your appointment, and I'll draw out your tattoo. And then you get whatever tattoo it is done that day.
And you mentioned booking your budget. So it would be more of, I've got $300 to spend. We'll do $300 worth of work. And then what we don't get done, we'll book another session to come in and finish.
That's absolutely right. If we can't quite get her done, or I can always draw things that reflect your budget, right? So say you want a tiger, you can get a $600 tiger, or you can get a, $100 tiger. You can get a minimum $80 tiger. It just depends.
When it comes to the technical side of it, what are some things that make the tattoo go longer? Is it like just the outlining, the coloring? Like what kind of historically will make a tattoo take, 5 hours versus 2?
So we're back to the level of details. Size not necessarily a case, but it does play a bit of a factor because I got larger needle groupings for a bigger tattoo that will make things last about the same amount of time. So it's really all comes down to the amount of detail you want inside your tattoo and where on your body you're getting your tattoo, because some places are harder to tattoo than others and take a little bit more time. Another major factor is how well the client sits. If the client's moving around and doesn't sit still very good, that means I have to stop while they're moving while I'm tattooing. And obviously, we're not getting anything done when they're wiggling around because it's impossible to tattoo a moving object.
Yeah. I feel like there should be like a minimum. So if somebody came in and they just were not able to sit for a tattoo, like I guess you'd do their I don't know, what would you do? Would you
So,
suggest they come in different
yeah,
times?
this has happened before where somebody comes in and they cannot sit for their tattoo. What I do is I get everything cleaned up and we have the client go home for the day. I'll bandage him. If we've done any tattoo work, I clean up and bandage everything like that. And then the next time the client comes back, we put on some numbing cream. So typically around here, you get your numbing creams around 5% lidocaine. And for the most part, that takes the edge off enough to help let people sit for the duration of their tattoo.
So there's a vibe to your shop, and I don't really feel like, it's a Scott City vibe, it's a tattoo shop vibe, and I think that's really cool just to have like just a place here for people to come. But tell me more. You said it was an art shop and a tattoo studio. And tell us again where you're located and just kind of tell us of a few of the things that you have and what you can do here.
So we're in Scott City, Kansas, 507 Court Street, and we offer prints. Those are artworks that are in print form instead of original canvas or whatever the substrate is that you use to make our art on. We do custom artwork. You need a piece for your husband and you need a portrait of him done as a character. We can take care of you for pretty much any artwork needs that you might need. We can do some graphic design work, just pretty much anything artsy that you could think of that maybe you can't get done yourself, or maybe you think you're not very good at art, but we could take care of it for you.
And I heard you say you don't have a piercer, right?
No, in the state of Kansas, piercers are hard to find.
Okay.
So at this time, we do not have a piercer.
But you do sell body jewelry.
We do sell body jewelry. I feel like that's a nice thing to have inside of a tattoo shop, is that not necessarily related to art.
Yeah. And how many, you kind of mentioned earlier before who else works here, but kind of give me a rundown of them.
Okay, so we have Alicia Pena, and she lives in Garden City. She travels to Scott City to work here at our shop. We also have an apprentice. His name's Austin Bain. He lives here in town locally.
So an apprentice, and you said they're working on getting their hours.
Yep.
And so, I mean, they can do work just as long as you or someone else who's licensed.
As long as Alicia's here, which is his mentor, he's able to tattoo pretty much anything. He's still an apprentice, so we keep an eye on him.
So when we walked up to the store, it does look kind of small on the outside, but when you come in, it's just super long. There's an upstairs I haven't even seen. There's some back rooms. Kind of, how did you come across this store? And then how did you design everything and decide all of that for the design?
So this store was originally built, I want to say in the 20s. I could be wrong, but it was, so the glass bottles of soda pop back in the day, you could drink your soda pop and then save your bottle and then turn it back in for 5-cent deposit, I want to say. So that's what this place was. This was the Coca-Cola bottling factory. And yeah, from the outside, it does look quite small. From the inside, it just keeps going and going and going. To be honest with you, when we acquired this building, it was just because there was lack of other buildings to try to turn into a tattoo parlor. This one was the closest one that was as closest to set up without having to put a bunch of money in our local area, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so the building was just happened to be available for what we were trying to do.
And you have a pretty good vibe, like we talked about before. We got some maroon walls and some dark blue, and then we have all the paint work and just different things, posters and everything on the wall. So how did you guys kind of decide to decorate like this?
So, like, as far as like the walls go, I just wanted a darker neutral color to accentuate the artwork that I hang on the walls. So, like, to act as background, so to speak. So that's where my mind was when I chose the colors, because eventually I want every square inch of wall space to be filled with artwork. And for only being open less than 3 years, we've gotten a good start to it.
Yeah, you got trying to decide if you have more open space than not.
Yeah, I want to say it's about
Yeah,
50-50 at this point.
Hey, I don't think I've asked, like, how long have you actually been tattooing?
I've actually been tattooing for 10 years. I've been a licensed tattooer for about 5 years now, counting my time I was licensed as an apprentice.
And then you just said that the shop's been here for 3 years?
Not quite 3 years. So in April of 2026, it'll be 3 years. It'll also be my 11th year tattooing.
Okay. And you mentioned one thing is that people just don't know about you. So
That's my main thing.
what's the most important thing that people need to know about you, about why they should come to your shop?
So, like, don't be afraid. We're not intimidating. Like, just come in and hang out if you want a tattoo. If you feel like we are intimidating, come in and hang out. Because if you did think we were intimidating before you hung out, you'll definitely not think so after.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're thinking about getting a tattoo, come in and hang out. Talk tattoos with us. That's what we like to do.
What's the typical tattoo aftercare for people if they've never gotten one before?
Okay, so that's a good question. So, what I typically do is I utilize a second skin. So, once I finish up your tattoo, I'll put a second skin bandage. It's like Tegaderm. It's just a different brand name. It was originally developed to help out burn victims that have been burned on the majority of their skin. It just acts as a skin. It's breathable, and if it works for you, it's the best you could use. And that's why we use it, because we only try to use the best products available on the market. So, anyway, after you've gotten your tattoo, I'll seal it up with a breathable bandage, and I recommend to keep the bandage on 3 to 5 days. And after you've taken the bandage off, or when you go to take the bandage off, you might want to hop into the shower and run some hot water on it. It'll help that adhesive loosen up so it's not so stuck to your skin when you go to take it off. And after you got your second skin off, I just recommend washing with antibacterial soap, of course. And then I just recommend unscented lotion after that, probably 2 to 3 times a day.
What are some things some people can purchase from you that don't involve getting a tattoo or a needle?
So we have a few different things that you can purchase from us. Main thing is artwork. We have original artwork. We also have prints that are available. We offer temporary tattoos. We offer sticker packs, body jewelry. It's not in the works just yet, but we will eventually be offering home prints. So, like, if you have a picture of your family, you have a family portrait that you don't have a print for, we can print those out for you.
I know you gave us your address. You told us that you can book on the website. And tell us one more time about your prices and then your address and phone number.
Okay, so we're located Scott City, Kansas, 507 Court Street. We charge a minimum of $80 and $100 an hour. You can call the shop at 620-214-4121.
Okay, and if somebody wants a quote, then they can either come in and see you or they can text you and you can talk about it.
You can message the shop. You can message us on Facebook. You can message on personal Facebook. Obviously, coming in the shop is a good one too.
We drove all the way from Hugoton, and so we're a little bit far from home. When you have people that come from out of town, like, do you have any restaurants that you suggest that they go to?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally like the Mom and Pop's Burger Stop. I believe that's on Highway 96 there. And then on Highway 83, there's a Mexican restaurant called El Dos de Oros. And those are a couple spots here in town that are decent place to eat.
All right, it looks like you're about finishing up. How early do you typically come into work and how late do you stay here?
So, I mean, obviously it's mostly by appointment, but our rough hours would be 11 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday.
Okay. Well, we just got 2 awesome tattoos. It was a good time.
Be careful when you put weight on that leg, babe. Make sure it's underneath you.